Today's lesson has been brought to you by Limitless Learning TT. For additional videos and more information on the services that we offer, please visit www.limitlesslearningtt.com, or you can find us on Facebook at Limitless Learning TT. In today's lesson, we're going to explore fractions, specifically adding fractions. A fraction is an expression that is represented by A divided by B, or A over B, where A and B are both whole numbers. So for example, 1 over 4 is an example of a fraction. 121 over 5 is also an example of a fraction. Now there are two terms that we need to know when we're talking about fractions. The first is the numerator, which is represented by A, and the second is the denominator. Now we have two types of fractions. The first is a proper fraction. This is where our numerator is less than our denominator. So we're basically saying a proper fraction is where A has to be less than B. So an example of a proper fraction would be 1 over 2. Since 1, which is the numerator, is less than 2, which is the denominator. Another example could be 5 over 7. 5, which is the numerator, is also less than the number 7, which is the denominator. So these two examples will be examples of proper fractions. The second type of fractions that we have is improper fractions. This is when our denominator is less than our numerator. So we're looking for instances where A is greater than B. So 11 over 7 is an example of an improper fraction. Also 107 over 4 is also an example of an improper fraction. So just to recap, a proper fraction is where my numerator is less than my denominator. An example of that is 3 over 8. And an improper fraction is where my denominator is less than my numerator. And an example of that will be 8 over 3. Now we're going to look at adding fractions. Adding fractions are particularly easy if our denominator is the same. So let's say we have two fractions that we would like to add. Example, 2 over 17 plus 5 over 17. Now, we would like to add these two fractions. Because our denominator is the same in each fraction, that is 17 and 17, it's the same in both of our fractions. What we do is we simply add the numerators and leave the denominator as is. So this is going to be equal to, we'll leave the denominator as 17, and then we add our numerator, which would be 2 plus 5. So the answer will be 7 over 17. Okay, so when we have the same denominator, we add the numerators, and the result is our answer. Let's look at another example. 6 over 4 plus 7 over 4. Again, we look at the denominators in both of our fractions, and it's 4, which is the same. So all we do is we leave our denominator as 4, and we add our numerators, which is 6 plus 7. 7 plus 6 is 13, so our answer is 13 over 4. What happens when we don't have the same denominator? For example, let's suppose we wanted to add the fraction 1/3 plus 3 over 10. The denominator in our first fraction is 3, and the denominator in our second fraction is 10. And we realize that these numbers are not the same, so we cannot just simply add our numerators. In this case, we will have to find the LCM, which is the lowest common multiple of 3 and 10. So the lowest common multiple that is the same between 3 and 10 is going to be 30. So therefore, for our answer, we're going to have a denominator, which is going to be 30. Now we have to make 1/3 into a fraction where the denominator is 30, and we have to make 3/10 into a fraction where the denominator is 30. So let's look at 1/3. So for 1/3, we need to get a denominator where it's 30. If we multiply 3 by 10, that's going to give us 30. So therefore, we're going to do the same thing to our numerator. We're going to multiply our numerator by 10, and that's going to give us 10. So when we change 1/3 into a fraction whose denominator is 30, it's 10. So 1/3 is the same thing as 10 over 30. Now we're going to do the same thing for 3 over 10. We want to get a denominator of 30. Now when we multiply 10 by 3, that's going to give us 30. So therefore we also multiply our numerator by 3, and that's going to give us 9. So 3 over 10 is the same thing as 9 over 30. So now we rewrite our fraction above. 1/3 is the same as 10 over 30, plus 3/10 is the same thing as 9 over 30. And now that our denominators are the same, we can simply add our numerators, which would be 10 plus 9 over 30, and 10 plus 9 is 19. So therefore, 1/3 plus 3/10 is going to be equal to 19 over 30. That's the end of today's lesson. Once again, for more videos as well as information on our services, please visit www.limitlesslearningtt.com.